بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
Okay, now here I'm going to cover up a little bit about the VPCs. Like at this point of time, I expect you to already know how to simulate the routers as well as the switches. If you go through with the GNS3, either you can simulate the routers with the help of different images you can use, like the IWS images, or you can use the IOU images. It's up to you. Okay, so in GNS3, we can also simulate some PC computers for basic testing labs. So especially in the switching kind of scenarios, we will be using some kind of PCs, and we call them as virtual PC simulators. And with the help of these virtual PC simulators, we can simply configure the basic IP configurations, and then we can configure some default gateways along with the DNS and other things. So we cannot do much of the advanced things here in our case. But again, as you can see here, because most of the time I will be using the PCs for initiating the traffic from one LAN to another LAN. So if you're trying to do that, then it's really important to know these things, because later on when we get into the routing labs, we can add some PCs, but normally not required for testing the routing labs. But mostly if you're doing some kind of switching concepts where you need to have some kind of PCs for basic verifications, like verifying the ping commands or verifying a specific trace commands, we can use here as well. So here, this is something normally you can try it out. Most of the time, if you go through in my CCNA or the CCNP switching, we use a Cisco packet tracer tool for most of the labs. That is basically for simulating the PCs. But in GNS3 also, we can simulate the virtual PC as well here. So we'll be using this virtual PCs in your GNS3 projects, and where we can do some kind of verifications like ping and trace commands. So it's a very simple thing you can do. Like you just need to go to the GNS3 and start any one sample project. You can just create one sample project, or you can say LAN one, some name, and you can save this one wherever you want. Like I'm going to save it. So normally it's recommended to save the files in a different folder. It's something I normally do it most of the time. So you can use some specific names, which will be easy for us to reference in the future. And now here, what I'm going to do is I'll be simulating a simple lab scenario here. Now in this simple lab scenario, I'm going to connect one router connecting to a switch, Ethernet switch, and then I'll be adding some multiple PCs here. And the PC IP address I'll be using 1.1. The subnet I'll be using 192.168.1.subnet. So that will be the subnet what I'm using, and I'll be using 192.168.1.100 will be the IP. So I can say 100 will be the IP, which will be a normal IWS router. And likewise, I'll be using the IP address of 192.168.1.1.2 for the PCs. The switch, I can use a normal switch here. In this case, in the advanced labs, we'll be using an IOU switch for getting into the CLI. So here, I'm not getting into this. So this is a basic simple lab we'll try to set up. Now here you can see the icons on the left side. Mostly if you don't see any of the devices, you need to go to edit and preferences, and from the preferences we can add the VPCs. So simply there will be a VPC option. Just click on new and use some name for that, like PC, and then click on apply. This is the PC. And similar way, you need an Ethernet switch. You can add new switch. Let's say just use some name as switch with a number of ports. I think 8 will be sufficient, but you can add more if you want, and then finish it out. So now you will see there will be a switch option which we can drag and drop, and also you will see the PCs option which I can use to drag and drop. So I need two PCs, so it's going to be PC1 and PC2 connecting to a switch. Now this is a normal Ethernet switch, unmanageable switch. You can simply go and connect with this cable here. So I'm going to connect them to my devices here, and I can simply do the basic IP configurations, and I can do the basic verifications as well. So first I'll try to do the basic IP configurations here with the VPCs. Like there are specific set of commands I'll be using for for this one. So the first one, I'll try to assign the IP address for this. So how to assign the IP? You need to start them, right click and start. And once you start them, you can also console them as well. So first you have to start, and once you start, you can also console. Okay. Now this is the CLI. Now basically, normally you will see the PCs more kind of a GUI, but here we are trying to simulate the PCs for the basic verifications. So in my case, I'm going to assign the IP address. So I'll go to my device here. We'll just do the basic IP configuration. So we can simply say IP. Whatever the IP address you have decided, you just need to type in the IP address of that device. And then the subnet mask, either you can type 255.255.255.0 or simply use /24 or whatever the IP, and then the gateway. The gateway address is 192.168.1.100. So that's it. This is IP configuration for the PC1. And then for the PC2, I just changed the IP to 1.2. Now with this, we can assign the basic IP. If you want to assign the DNS, you can also assign the DNS with a command called IP DNS server. Let's say my DNS, there's no tab button slot, so we need to say IP DNS. Let's say my DNS server is on 192.168.1.50. Now these options are similar to your PC verification. So if you go to your network interface cards, so normally you will see the option. You'll see the options here in the network adapters. You can just go ahead and change the settings from here as well. Okay, so the same thing here. You can go to any of the interfaces, and you can just go ahead and change the IP address assignment. Generally, you can do the same thing, similar way we are trying to do here. But basically, we don't have any kind of GUI interfaces options here. Now once we do this, if you want to do the basic testing, you can, if you want to verify, you can do a command called show IP. This is a way to verify what is the IP address and the other informations. You can verify the same thing. And if you want to verify the testing, you can generate a ping command to verify the connectivity with the other device. So I'm trying to communicate with 1.2, the 1.2 and 1.1. You can see I'm getting a reply. So even you can use trace commands. Now these trace commands will be more useful when you do routing. As of now, we cannot get much trace because we don't have any of the routers in between. Now, similar way, you can also make this host as a DHCP client as well. I'll come to that. If you want to change the host name, you can change the host name. Like the default names, it will take as what we said. If you just wanted to change the name, you can also change the name by using this set PC command. And even you can save these configurations. You can simply save as well. Or if you want to give some specific name, you can even give the name for the particular file. So it is going to save it in the default location. And let's say in the future, you want to make any changes where you want to, let's say, remove the configurations. You can simply say clear IP. So when you say clear IP, it will automatically remove the configuration. So when you say show IP again, you can see there is no initial configurations at all. So let's try to give the IP as 1.2 and then the /24 and the gateway address as 1.100. Because I have used the clear IP command, so it's been removed. Now I should see the configurations should be coming back here again. Now finally, you can also use show ARP command. Let me generate a ping and verify first. Verify the reachability with another device. And even you can use a kind of a show ARP command. ARP command will show you the resolution. So basically the MAC address of the devices, you can verify the same. So this is one kind of simulation we'll be using in our switching labs, in the advanced switching labs. Probably later on, when you try to document these things, you probably need some PCs to verify the connectivity. Now, finally, there is one more option I'll quickly show you on this VPC, the DHCP client option. So in the case of DHCP client option, where we can add, let's say I'm going to add one more PC, and I'm expecting these PCs to get an IP directly from the DHCP server. So we don't have the DHCP server here. So probably what I'll do is I'll try to add one router. Again, at this point of time, I expect you to know how to simulate the routers. You can use any one of these routers image and then just run it. So there are two fast Ethernet interfaces we can add and one serial interface, and then finish it off. So now I can drag and drop the router. Now what I'll be doing is I'll be doing some DHCP related configurations here. Again, here I just do the configuration, but later on we can also see the DHCP configuration a bit later. But in my case, I expect you to know already some kind of basic CCNA stuff. So I'm going to start the router and quickly console and see if this router boots up, and I'll quickly do the DHCP configurations. So as per my topology here, I'm going to add another PC. The third PC we can say like 192.168.1.3, which will be getting an IP from the DHCP again. And then this router is acting as a DHCP server here. So just to simulate a DHCP server here as well, okay. So to go ahead, we just do the basic DHCP configs. Now you can make a router to do the job of a DHCP because we're not using any kind of DHCP server here, but probably in the production networks, if you have a dedicated DHCP server, you can use. So DHCP one, I'm saying the network should be 192.168.1.subnet. And then the subnet mask, what is the subnet we are trying to use, and what is your default router. And then the DNS server, if you have any, we also define the DNS server, and we can say exclude a specific addresses. So I don't want to include 1.1 because 1.1 is already assigned, 1.2 is already assigned, 1.100 is used for the gateway, and 1.50 is used for the DNS. So I'm just trying to exclude them. So I'm trying to set up some of the configurations here to the DHCP job. And I'm expecting the DHCP server, that is a router, will be assigning the IP to the third PC. Now, if you want to make this device to do the job of a DHCP client, we just need to go and add a specific command, that is IP DHCP. That's a command. When you say IP DHCP, it will start sending out a broadcast request. As you know, the basic process here, reach out the DHCP server and get the IP dynamically. So that is what I'm trying to expect here. Can't find the DHCP server. Let's try to see or set up once again, because the DHCP server is just up the router. Make sure that we do have the IP configuration is missing because we did not configure the IP address on the interface. So that's the issue, because the DHCP server must have an IP, right? So in my case, router is doing the job of a DHCP server here. And I think that's it. So once the interface is up, and I can go to the PC3 and I can say IP DHCP, which is same like obtaining the IP automatically on the PC, where I'm saying that, you need to get the IP address dynamically. And as you can see, the DHCP has assigned the IP address of 1.3 with a default gateway of 1.100. And if you say show IP, if I want to verify the configurations, you can see the IP address here. And likewise, if you want to verify the same thing from basically show IP DHCP bindings, you can see the IP address has been assigned. So I just wanted to cover up this because most of the time we use the static IPs here. But let's say you're adding some multiple PCs in your network, and especially doing some of the switch mock labs and going to each and every device and giving the IP will be difficult. So the best way you can do it, simply add some DHCP configurations on the gateway, on the router, and expect them to get the IP dynamically, which is a common scenario in the production as well. So these are some of the options with the virtual PCs. Because most of the time, I don't really prefer to use for PCs GNS3 because the packet tracer will be a suitable option, easier option as well. But again, as we will be doing some advanced labs with MSTP, those things on the GNS3. So I thought of adding some computers that will be helpful in some of the advanced labs. We can do some basic testing with the help of computers in the GNS3 as well. Okay, so let's go ahead with the configuration of the switching lab. Again, I'll be using the IOU here for setting up the labs. And before that, we need to make sure that we do have this VMware properly running. You need to make sure that you have this GNS3 VM is also powered on, and make sure that it is already enabled inside the GNS3 server. So most of the time you may not see this, because at the back end, I'll be using the IOU switch for simulating the switch and do the switching related configurations. As I said, the same lab you can also do with a packet tracer with a simple thing. So it's a simple kind of thing. But here I just wanted to show you the same thing with the IOU VM here. So make sure that this particular GNS3 VM is enabled and it is running here. I should see the running symbol here. And once it is there, I should be able to start. Means now we can see the GNS3 VM is running here. Okay. So we need some PCs for verification. So I'm going to start with a basic VLAN lab initially, and then we'll also go ahead with the trunking labs a little bit later on. So I will be using these PCs, and these PCs will be like using 192.168.1.subnet, and this is 192.168.2.subnet. So I need to make sure that I'm also having the IOU ready here working. So that must be running as an L2 image. Let's say switch 1, let's say the IL2 image, and that particular L2 image is already added. And make sure that you're also running this code here. That something also should be there. So make sure that you also have this code, IOS code running on it. To be able to run the devices, that's something already also required here. Now, once I do this, you can see this is my switch. Let me see if this is working or not, because I should be able to see the command line should be working here. And we can also do the connectivity. Now while you're doing the connectivity, make sure that you remember the ports, because we are going to assign them in the VLANs. So I'm going to connect E0 by 1 and